Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. The Magnificent Seven is a 1960 American Western film that was directed by John Sturges and is based on the 1954 Japanese film Seven Samurai. The ensemble cast includes Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson, Robert Vaughn, Brad Dexter, James Coburn, and Horace Bruckholz. They're the seven gunfighters, and Eli Wallach is their main antagonist. The storyline goes that when their small village is once again attacked by the bandit Calvera, 3 Mexican farmers head north to try to buy guns. They ask Chris Adams to help them, but he suggests that they hire experienced gunmen instead. He soon recruits 5 others and eventually accepts the 6th that he had initially rejected. Together they develop a plan to secure the town and defend it against Calvera's attack. During this time, friendships are formed and love blossoms between one of the men and a beautiful local girl, but not all of them will survive the attack. The director Sturges was really eager to cast Steve McQueen in the role in the picture, having just worked with him on the 1959 film Never So Few. But McQueen could not get released from his hit TV series Wanted Dead or Alive. On the advice of his agent, McQueen, who is an experienced race car driver, staged a car accident and claimed that he couldn't work on his series because he had suffered a whiplash injury and that he had to wear a neck brace. During the interval required for his recuperation, he was free to appear in The Magnificent Seven. James Coburn was a great fan of the Japanese film Seven Samurai, which this is based on, having seen it at least 15 times, and he was hired through the help of co-star and former classmate Robert Vaughn, after the role of the expert knife thrower had been rejected by actors Sterling Hayden and John Ireland. Location shooting began in March of 1960 in Mexico, where both the village and the U.S. border town were built for the film. Mexico didn't take too kindly to Hollywood productions due to the controversy surrounding the film of Veracruz from 1954. It was agreed that they could shoot this film as long as Mexican censors were allowed on the set to dictate what could and could not be shown. They demanded changes to the ways that the Mexican villagers would be portrayed. Walter Newman, who had written the screenplay, was asked to travel to the location to make the necessary script revisions, but he refused to do it. The changes were then written in by William Roberts, and they were significant enough to merit him a co-writing credit. Newman refused to share the credit with him and just had his name completely removed from the film entirely. These Mexican censors required that the peasants always be dressed in clean clothes, despite being farmers. This caused a huge delay since it meant that dozens of intentionally dirty costumes had to be thoroughly cleaned before filming could commence. The screenwriter Newman objected to how John Sturges filmed several of his scenes and became furious when Sturges gave Yul Brynner some of the carefully crafted and character-driven lines that he had written for him, and they got passed to Steve McQueen and Charles Bronson. This is really what influenced him from being taken off the writing credits. He just didn't want any part of it after that. You would think that this trouble that plagued the director and the writer would have been long-lasting, but he and Sturges reteamed again for The Great Escape in 1963. Although it's often thought that the Seven were a group of completely unknowns who became stars because of the movie, that really isn't true at all. Yul Brynner was, of course, a star in his own right, Steve McQueen was at the time starring in the hit TV series Wanted Dead or Alive. Charles Bronson had been working as an actor since 1951 and had his own TV series, Man with a Camera. James Coburn and Robert Vaughn were well known through movie and TV westerns. Brad Dexter had pivotal roles in The Asphalt Jungle from 1950 and Run Silent, Run Deep from 1958. It would have only been Horst Burkholz that would have been unfamiliar to American audiences. He was chosen in the film because he was all the buzz in Hollywood, thinking that he was going to be the next Marlon Brando. Being German originally, and he's playing a Mexican gunfighter in this film, he had to do certain things to actually sell himself in that role. He got really tan to look more Hispanic, but he just wasn't able to completely hide his German accent. Steve McQueen and Yul Brynner went at each other the entire time of filming. Steve would try to draw the audience's attention away from Yul Brynner by doing a variety of things to make the audiences want to look his direction. Yul Brynner, who was 5'10", was concerned, and he wanted to make sure that he always appeared a little bit taller than Steve McQueen in shots. Steve McQueen was about the same height, though. Yul Brynner would make a little mound of dirt that he could stand on when they would shoot shots that were together. Steve McQueen would casually kick at the mound every time he passed it to lower it down. Yul Brynner was supposedly so worried about McQueen stealing his limelight in some scenes that he hired an assistant to count the number of times that McQueen touched his own hat when Brynner was speaking. Now, they just didn't get along at all during filming. Well, what you have to realize is that Yul Brynner commanded this location shooting, and he could have easily had Steve McQueen kicked off the film, but he didn't. In 1980, Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen reconciled. McQueen lay dying from cancer, and he called Brynner up to thank him. Brynner asked him for what, and McQueen said, "You could have had me kicked off that movie so easily because I was trying to rattle you. But you let me stay there, and that picture made me, so thank you very much." His apology was completely accepted shortly before McQueen died. Take a look back at this classic Western. It's a good one. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.